Tonight, the first big staffing shakeup of the president's second term, with embattled National Security Advisor Mike Waltz at the center of the Signalgate scandal, now reassigned. What it means for the president's inner circle and what happens from here. Then some good news for the big tech companies means some good vibes for the stock market. The single word surprisingly missing from Apple's business outlook. Plus, the man who fell 20 feet from his seat at a Pirates game, now in critical condition tonight. What we're hearing from shocked players and fans who watched it happen. And new details from superstar Sheryl Crow about an armed break-in at her Nashville property. What she says selling her Tesla had to do with it. And later, big race, big hats, big bets, and big money with millions of dollars on the line at the Kentucky Derby. Our own Steve Kornacki is live from Churchill Downs to break it down, coming up later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and any minute now, we expect to see President Trump for the first time after that first big staffing shakeup of his second term. The president naming Mike Waltz to be the country's ambassador to the United Nations, which means Waltz is leaving his role as National Security Advisor. In his place, for now, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. Yes, he already has a job. He's going to be doing both of these big jobs at once, at least for now. Something not a lot of people saw coming. Apparently, not even his spokesperson at the State Department.
He says that in the interim, Secretary of State Marco Rubio will serve as National Security Advisor while continuing his strong leadership at the State Department. Do you know how long he's going to be serving in both roles?
It is clear that I just heard this from you.
Waltz says he is deeply honored to continue his service to the president and the nation after a pretty wild couple days. Our team did not see him at an event with the president this morning, but cameras did catch him leaving the West Wing. There he is. And then just a day and a half ago, cameras captured him as well. Look at this, at a cabinet meeting to talk about national security. But look more closely from another angle. Look at what's in his hand. That's his phone. He's on Signal. You can see chats with labels of names: Rubio, Gabbard, Tulsi Gabbard. Looks like maybe Steve Witkoff, J.D. Vance. Why does that matter? Well, Signal's kind of why we're here. Remember, Waltz took, and I'm quoting here, full responsibility for so-called Signalgate, that big group chat where a journalist from The Atlantic was accidentally added to this whole discussion on sensitive strikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen that had all kinds of questions swirling about whether classified information was shared. Administration officials deny that. Now, publicly, the president has stood by Waltz. Privately, according to two Republican sources our team talked with last month, the president has vented about this whole thing leaking out. And now some big questions moving forward. Does this mean the end of the Signalgate fallout? Could we see another firing or reassignment, like maybe the defense secretary, Pete Hegseth? Who does the president pick for the permanent role of National Security Advisor? Or does Marco Rubio end up handling this job in an acting capacity for a little while? Remember, we saw that a lot in President Trump's first term, these kind of long-term actings. Gabe Gutierrez is in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where we are going to see the president tonight. He is on his way there, Gabe. He's about to leave the White House. There might be an opportunity for him to take some questions from reporters who are gathered for the departure. We will see any minute. But let's start on sort of this turnover here. We saw a lot of turnover in the first term, including in this very role, when he fired his first national security advisor only a few weeks in. Here we are 102 days in, depending on how you count it. And this is really the first big shift triggered in part by this controversy over Signal.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. And look, the knives have been out for Mike Waltz for some time. By the way, before I keep going, I'd be remiss if I didn't say roll tide, because you apparently are wearing a red blazer. This event is commencement about to get started in just a few hours here. The president speaking here in front of a large crowd in Ruby Red, Alabama. And he has been focusing on touting his economic accomplishments. But back in Washington, as you said, the focus has been on the departure of Mike Waltz. And he had been aligned with the moderate wing of the party, and internally the MAGA wing not very happy with him. You mentioned those two sources that NBC News spoke with, that Republicans had been saying that privately President Trump had been venting about Mike Waltz ever since the Signal chat controversy. Now, earlier today, though, he did post on social media in announcing Mike Waltz's departure. He said that he was, from his time in uniform on the battlefield in Congress as my national security advisor, Mike Waltz has worked hard to put our nation's interests first. I know he will do the same in his new role. And this comes just several weeks after President Trump fiercely praising Mike Waltz. Here's some of what he said in late March.
The public understands that He's a very good man. That man is a very good man right there that you criticize so strongly. He's a very good man, and he will continue to do a good job.
The tension, though, had been building for some time, ever since that Signal Gate controversy. Mike Waltz was seen as very aligned with Susie Wiles, the chief of staff. So up until just a few hours ago, it was thought that he might be able to pull through this. Apparently not. And the president now giving him a new role, or nominating him to be ambassador to the UN House.
And that's a Senate-confirmed position, Gabe. And I should note here, too, that no comment from the president on departure. So he's getting on the helicopter. He's heading to Andrews. He's going to then be heading your way, of course. We'll see if he decides to take any questions while he's in Alabama. But Mike Waltz is going to have to go through a process now if he does want to be the UN ambassador. And it is entirely possible that Signal Gate comes up, right? I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean this whole situation is behind him, although he and Pete Hegseth and others have answered a series of questions about this already.
Yeah, and certainly, look, he'll face tough questioning from Democrats for certain. But as I pointed out, he wasn't exactly very friendly with the MAGA wing of the party, that arch-conservative wing of the party. So he might face tough questions from them as well. But certainly a much more difficult confirmation process than before. He didn't have to be confirmed by the Senate in his role as National Security Advisor. Earlier today, the president at a National Day of Prayer event did not shout out Mike Waltz. He wasn't there at the event. But again, this comes after weeks of the president standing by publicly, standing up for his national security advisor publicly. And now, again, things happen very quickly in Trump world, as I'm sure you remember, Hallie, from covering the first administration.
Gabe, real quick here. Is there an end cap on Marco Rubio's time doing this double duty, if you will? We saw first time around, and you remember this too, these acting folks would serve for maybe months at a time here. Do we have any sense of whether Rubio's in this dual role long term?
Look, it is quite remarkable. We do not yet know. It's possible that he could be in this role for quite some time. President Trump, over the last several days and weeks, has been effusive in his praise of Marco Rubio. And you see right there, quite a resume now for Marco Rubio. He's Secretary of State. He's the National Security Advisor. He's the acting administrator of USAID. And he's also the head of the National Archive. So a very busy portfolio there for Marco Rubio, who has seemingly gotten increasingly closer to President Trump as Mike Waltz has been on the outs. Of course, there are also other diplomats involved in all this. Steve Witkoff, a Middle East envoy. So it was very crowded in there, and it appears that Mike Waltz was on the outs, did not make it through this latest situation there, Hallie.
Gabe Gutierrez live for us down there in Alabama. For the record, Gabe, the red, unintentional. I am a college football neutral, despite your Roll Tide. Thank you very much.
Neutral.
Appreciate you, sir. Let's talk money now, because right now you got Apple beating expectations, doing better than people thought in this earnings report that, interestingly, omits a single word that may be surprising, doesn't mention the word tariff. Remember, Apple had lobbied hard, and they won carve-outs from President Trump's heavy China tariffs for stuff like smartphones. But it's not the big companies that should be most concerned. According to the Chamber of Commerce, it's the small ones. After the chamber sent this letter to the president's top economic advisors asking for a tariff exclusion process. You see it there immediately. Why? Well, look, people are starting to tighten their purse strings. McDonald's knows it. They're talking about it. They say that they're seeing its biggest contraction, so its biggest slowdown, since the peak of the COVID pandemic. They say because people just aren't eating out. People aren't dining out quite as much. Same-store sales domestically way down. Let me bring in Christine Romans, who's joining us now. A lot to get to on the economic front here, Christine. Let's start with Apple. That is just out here. You had so many people watching these big tech companies, but now Apple's coming out saying basically, like, they didn't see much evidence of people panic buying because of tariffs in the first few months.
Yeah, and iPhone sales coming in kind of at the low end of expectations, but within that range here. And it's a lot of its profit boost came from services, and it's growing, everywhere in the world except for China. I mean, I think the most important thing here are what the analysts asked Tim Cook on the conference call. That's where the news will be made. He has been very deft in navigating what are treacherous waters in terms of not angering the White House, right, about tariffs. And his company is right in this. I mean, a lot of production there in China. The company has also said that it plans to make even more of the phones that are are sold in the United States in India, other products making them in Vietnam. So this is a company that, since the first Trump administration, has been carefully trying to manage around the Trump trade worldview. So TBD, watch this space. The news will happen when the analysts try to get him to say the T word.
Okay, well, yeah, you'll be standing by. Thank you. We'll see what happens, because that, I think, is supposed to start really any minute here. We also showed that letter from the head of the Chamber of Commerce saying, hey, small companies need help, too. Is that a scream into the void, or is there some, like, realistic possibility something comes from it?
Look, it's basically, they're practically begging the White House to do something and saying all the big companies like Apple, for example, that does have some exemptions for its products, they have K Street lobbyists and a Washington presence to be able to lobby for what they need. But, you know, Aunt Joan with her, you know, baby clothes store on Main Street doesn't have that. And so this is the Chamber of Commerce, an influential organization, saying we would like an exclusion process immediately for these companies, and saying specifically that they don't have weeks and months to wait for trade agreements. And also saying that they agree, definitely, as so many business leaders do, saying the president is doing the right thing, but let's make sure that we're not hurt by it in the medium term. Also making the point, Hallie, that I think is interesting, they'd like exemptions for things that aren't made in the U.S., like bananas and coffee and stuff that isn't made here that now is being tariffed. Small business owners are paying more for something. They're not going to grow bananas, you know?
I mean, that's it, right? I mean, the other thing is, too, Christine, I wonder what you make of some of those warning signs from McDonald's here.
Yeah, I looked in those numbers. So low-income diners had an almost double-digit decline in same-store sales. Wow. But guess what? It was nearly as much for middle-income diners, which means people are, you know, they are pinching their pennies. They are concerned about stock market swings and tariff talk. And after also, by the way, 2.5 years of being just exhausted by inflation. So just interesting to see what's happening there. We've been hearing something similar from the airlines, totally different kind of consumer behavior. But also the airlines are saying, people are pulling back. And the Southwest CEO said he thinks it's because of tariffs. Consumers are cautious.
Yeah.
They think something's coming. They feel and know something's brewing. And so they're pinching their pennies.
Never a dull, Christine Romans. Keep an eye on that Apple thing. We'll talk when we know more. Thank you very much. Right now tonight, too, a travel mess with more than 4-hour delays for flights at Newark, outside New York. And that slowdown is intentional because there aren't enough air traffic controllers. Major domino effect happening. Look at this. Incoming flights delayed by something like 5 hours. Departing flights a little bit better, 30 minutes. The FAA is slowing things down on purpose here because of major staffing shortages at the airport's control towers. This has been happening at Newark all week long, and it's not clear when things are going to get backed up to speed. Let me get to NBC's Tom Costello on this. Boy, Tom, there are a lot of threads to pull here, in particular, this ripple effect, because what happens at Newark doesn't stay at Newark. You're talking about potentially a domino that could affect other airports in the region.
Yeah, let me, this is really kind of a complicated situation here. Some inbound flights are delayed by 12 hours.
Jeez.
Some outbound flights right now are delayed by 5 hours. This is a real problem at Newark Airspace. And let me explain what's going on here. The FAA in the last year has moved some of the controllers who handle Newark Airspace, okay, not the people on the tower who handle the runways, but airspace, they moved those controllers down to Philadelphia. It was all about trying to encourage more people to be in the Philadelphia TRACON, if you will, that center that handles airspace above 10,000 feet. And it was also about, trying to essentially make sure that they've got enough people in one place, and therefore they're siphoning off extra people. That was the rationale. It hasn't worked that well, according to the controllers we talked to. And the problem is they've had dramatic equipment failures this week. Listen to this. Radars at the Newark Airspace Control Center went down. Radar went down Monday night. Radios went down last night. And according to one of the veterans I talked to, this is a regular ongoing problem, and it has been for a while. And that is why we've seen these dramatic delays and cancellations today affecting the Newark airspace, essentially, and in and out of Newark. So the concern is this could portend a rough travel season for anybody going in and out of Newark. And keep in mind, Newark is a critical hub for United Airlines. So that's where we stand right now, with hundreds of flights delayed or canceled today. And the delays and the cancellations are really pretty dramatic.
Can you be crystal clear there, Tom? Should people feel less safe flying into Newark? In other words, is this a safety thing or is this a convenience thing?
Unsolicited, the controller I talked to today said he doesn't think that Newark airspace is safe. Now, I was surprised by that.
That's a little intense.
And they're not prone to hyperbole. I will tell you that immediately the FAA and the Air Traffic Control Union say it's very safe.
Okay.
Don't worry. They're trying to make sure that things are spaced properly. They're trying to make sure that they got enough staffing. But this is clearly an ongoing problem here. And we are, as you and I have discussed, the country is short some 3,000 controllers. Right. And today, the DOT secretary announced steps to try to recruit more and retain controllers. And it's a very stressful job, right? So they're offering bonuses not only to get people to sign up to be a controller, but then stay on the job until the mandatory retirement age of 56. Yeah, that's right, 56. That's the mandatory retirement age because of the stress that this job entails. But nonetheless, we have a big problem in this country on the shortage of controllers, widely accepted. Everybody acknowledges that. Right. And it will take years to get it fixed.
But I do think that helps explain maybe the question people might have, which is, well, wait a second, why not just fly in more controllers from L.A. or Texas or wherever? It's not as though there's this big excess pool of people with this very specific expertise that can come in and help at Newark. Fair?
35% washout rate at the academy. 35%. Wow. Another 20% quit on the job. They simply cannot keep up, or barely are keeping up right now, with people just leaving, retiring and leaving, right? And it's stressful. This is not Monday through Friday 9 to 5. It's weekends, it's overnights, it's holidays, and it's life and death. It is a very stressful job.
Tom Costello, much more to watch there. Tom, please keep us posted as the evening goes on this one, too. Appreciate that. Also in Pennsylvania tonight, some 200,000 people do not have electricity after severe weather ripped through. High winds downing power lines. Look at some of the debris, some of the destruction here. Roofs smashed in. Look, this road, you see the wind blowing the rain across, trees down, as mentioned. And this has turned deadly. At least 4 people have been killed in just the last few days. Across the country, parts of Oklahoma and Texas are under flood warnings as they brace for another round of storms tonight, with whole neighborhoods, look at that, underwater. Floodwaters causing a dam to break in one town about 30 miles from Tulsa, where at least 2 people have died, at least in that state, including an 86-year-old woman who drowned. Somebody else died after his car got stuck in the water. Rescuers were not able to get to him. That's the car right there. I want to go now to NBC News meteorologist Kevin Wooten, who's joining us now. What is the expectation here, Tevin, for when we get a handle on this?
Well, Hallie, unfortunately, a lot of those locations that you just showed there going through the severe weather today, still underneath the severe weather threat tomorrow as well. The storms right now ongoing across western Pennsylvania and even portions of Ohio, with severe thunderstorms now with potentially pea-sized to dime-sized hail. To the south and west, a new area. This is the second area of concern tonight and into tomorrow. North of Austin, we do have tornado warnings right now and also severe thunderstorm warnings too. And keep in mind, as one starts to come to a conclusion, the other is just getting going. And this, by the way, will continue tonight and into tomorrow, which makes this all the more dangerous. These tornadoes are happening overnight when a lot of folks are sleeping, so they should have a way to get those severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings too. Hail potentially the size of a lime, if not the size of a softball. Also the potential through Lawton and Wichita Falls and across the Red River region, and then to the south from Waco to Bryan and Austin, Texas. That's across portions of the central and southern plains. But look at the rain that stretches all the way across the northeast. It has been a very, very wet spring across Boston, has practically not had a dry weekend just yet, Hallie, so far this spring. Unfortunately, this is rounds of rainfall, not just going on through Sunday with another 1 to perhaps 2.5 inches of rain, Hallie, but perhaps another 3, 4, or 5 days throughout much of next week. Hallie?
Tevin Wooten, thank you very much for that update. Appreciate it. To Harvard now, with new concerns on campus tonight, as we're learning more about Harvard handing over information about thousands of its international students to the Department of Homeland Security. This looks like the first big move from the school to give in to at least some of the Trump administration's demands since the start of the escalating fight between the two. But here's the thing. There's a lot we still don't know about this. Like what specifically, what exactly is in those records? The White House asked for things like disciplinary records, illegal activities as well. They threatened to cut off Harvard's student exchange program if the university did not go along with this. All of it part of a much larger fight between the universities, various universities in higher education, and the White House. More than 1,000 international students at schools across the country have reportedly had student visas revoked in just the last couple of weeks. Rahima Ellis is joining us now. Rahima, help us understand why Harvard is choosing to comply with this request after very notably over the course of the last couple of weeks indicating they would resist.
One of the things we're seeing, and that's a result of the letter that the president of Harvard sent to the Harvard community last night, it points out how important foreign students are to the Harvard community campus and to what Harvard stands for. You talk about there are thousands of students, and they come from 140 different countries, and they're saying that this is critical. You point out we do not know exactly what Harvard turned over, but is some of what you pointed out. But I should mention that Harvard has made some concessions. It's the whole push from the administration about getting rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, for example. Harvard went so far as to get rid of a program called Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. They now call it Community and Campus Life. That's one concession they made. Some concessions about whether or not there could be protests on campus and whether masks could be worn. They said that cannot happen. And so they have done some things. And we also want to point out here that in our story last night, we said we hadn't heard from the White House in reference to the whole fact that some students on campus, not just Jewish students, were feeling pressured about their inability to speak out without reprisal. The White House did respond to us today. Let me read some of it for you, and it says exactly, the actions of the Trump administration's anti-Semitism task force is motivated by one thing and one thing only, tackling anti-Semitism. Hallie?
Rahima, when you take a step back, we mentioned there have been hundreds of student visas that have reportedly been revoked from international students all across the country. What does that landscape look like? Where does that go?
It's a good question. You know, of the thousands of visas that were revoked, 12 of the students and faculty at Harvard had their visas revoked. But we found out yesterday that they have been restored. Why? How? We don't know any answers to that. There are a lot of questions here that remain unanswered. I should point out to you also, Hallie, we talked to some of the students who were in our story last night who were concerned about they would face repercussions if they spoke out. One of the things they said to us is that they are somewhat frustrated and disappointed with the response from Harvard University, and it didn't make them feel better. Hallie?
Rahima Ellis, thanks very much for staying on top of this beat. As always, appreciate it. Let's take you to Southern California, where police there are launching what they're calling a thorough investigation into the golf cart accident that led to the death of the longtime friend of an NFL Hall of Famer. A source familiar with the details confirmed to NBC News station KUSA that former Broncos star John Elway was driving the golf cart in the Palm Springs area when his agent and friend Jeffrey Spearbeck fell off. He was 62 years old. The NFL is declining to comment. I want to go right to Liz Kreutz and just a chilling story, you know, no matter how you look at it here. What else do we know about how it happened? And is there any possibility that John Elway may end up facing charges here?
Yeah, Hallie, it's such a tragedy, and we've been given no indication of that at this time. What we do know is that authorities have released a statement, the Riverside County Sheriff's Office, saying that they're committing to conducting a thorough investigation into the death of Spearbeck and will take appropriate action based on the outcome. What we know from authorities is this happened on Saturday at this private gated golf community in La Quinta, about 2.5 miles away, by the way, from the Stagecoach Country Music Festival. There are reports that the men may have been at that festival earlier in the day. Also that Elway has a home at this residential community. According to authorities, Spearbeck fell off a golf cart. He had serious injuries. He was taken to a hospital in critical condition where he sadly died yesterday morning. What we know as well is that these two men were extraordinarily close. They had worked together for decades. They even then went into business together. They owned a winery. Elway put out a statement where he said there are no words to truly express the profound sadness I feel with the sudden loss of someone who has meant so much to me. In that statement, though, he did not comment or bring up at all his reported involvement in this incident, Hallie.
Just an awful situation. Liz Kreutz, thank you very much for the new reporting. Appreciate it. Coming up here on the show, how Elon Musk is planning his way out of the White House and how far he's really going. Plus, what Sheryl Crow says happened to her after posting this video selling her Tesla. What are the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight? Number 1, an Army veteran convicted of killing his girlfriend and her 3 kids nearly 30 years ago is set to be executed tonight by lethal injection in Florida. Lawyers for Jeffrey Hutchinson have tried to delay it, pointing to mental health problems linked to his Army service. Arguments a judge rejected. If carried out, this execution will be the 4th in Florida this year. Number 2, safety officials recalling nearly 2 million Ninja brand pressure cookers after like 100 reports of people getting burned. Half of them were 2nd or 3rd degree burns. The company says people should stop using this pressure cooker right away. You see it there. Get in touch with them and you'll get a free replacement lid. Number 3, Kohl's firing its CEO today for violating company policy. Kohl's says an investigation found he had a personal relationship with a vendor that he did not disclose and then told the company to engage in transactions with that same vendor. Kohl's and the former CEO have not yet responded to our request for comment. Number 4, The Rizzler joining the cast of the Thunderbolts cast at a special screening for the film. If you haven't seen him before, he's 9 years old. He's a TikTok star, and he's like known for this look for movie showings and crashing events like this while doing his signature Rizzle-fied smirk like you see here. Number 5, a legendary tennis superstar's pickleball championship run coming to a bitter end. We told you about this. Andre Agassi and his partner barely beat 2 teenagers on the pickleball court yesterday. 2nd round, they lost. Now listen, Agassi is still one of the greatest tennis players ever. Maybe pickleball isn't his thing right now. We'll see. There's always next season. Pickling's not for everyone, you know. Also tonight, in other news, we'll take you to Nashville, where country superstar Sheryl Crow is sharing some new details about what happened when an armed man entered her property there. Telling Variety in a new interview, it was what she describes as an alarming response from the far right after she sold her Tesla. She posted this video of her selling her car back in February. And in the caption, Crow wrote, "My parents always said, you are who you hang out with." Remember, this was as Elon Musk was taking on that controversial role at the White House just a few weeks after President Trump's inauguration. Crow is not the only prominent progressive who has waved goodbye to her Tesla as a form of protest. Same deal for Jason Bateman, Bette Midler, Senator Mark Kelly, others. I want to bring in George Solis, who's joining us now. And it's not that Sheryl Crow is shy about her political beliefs. She's written songs about, weave that into some of her songwriting here. She's talked about it. But she says the reaction this time was notably different, right?
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. Keep in mind when she wrote All I Want to Do and Love is a Good Thing, she was living out in L.A. She wasn't living in Tennessee. She said in that same article that, look, people didn't have as many guns back then. I certainly wasn't living in Tennessee. So this obviously felt a lot closer to home. In that article, she says it doesn't feel safe when you're dealing with people who are so committed. And you're right. When you talk about that one song, Love is a Good Thing, the lyrics there really point out some of her views that she hasn't been shy about expressing. I'll sing it for you since we can't actually play it. She says very famously, "Watch out, sister, watch out, brother, watch out, children, while they kill each other with a gun they bought at Walmart discount stores." I apologize. I am not a singer, so I'll stick to my day job. But you get the point there. She was obviously very outspoken. She's been an advocate for climate change. She supports the Natural Resources Defense Council, the NRDC. But again, very shocking to hear that this actually happened to her at her property. And she says, she still sticks by her decision to get rid of her Tesla, as you heard, because she's obviously trying to send that message that she doesn't feel like she can support this while things are kind of the way that they have been going, Hallie.
And as you know, George, these sort of the selling of the Tesla, the offloading of the Tesla became and has become kind of a thing ever since President Trump was inaugurated. And it became clear that Elon Musk would have that elevated role as he did in those first few months here. And then there are some who look at it and go, well, of course, people in Hollywood might lean more liberal, these sort of celebrities, many of them known for having that more sort of Democratic bent.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously not everyone can go out and just get rid of their Teslas after buying them. So what we have seen, it's been all over social media, is people are buying stickers, bumper stickers, anything to put onto their Teslas saying, hey, look, I have the car, and even though this doesn't really support my viewpoint, I can at least keep my car and express how dissatisfied I am with things that Elon Musk has been doing as part of Doge or anything else that they don't seem to care for. But it is part of a movement. And obviously, we have seen more and more fallout from people who are rethinking even purchasing or getting a Tesla vehicle. But again, for Sheryl Crow in this particular incident, again, to hear that this actually hit so close to home for her, very pointed in that article she in that interview she gave to Variety, Hallie.
That's right. Those new revelations there. George Solis, thank you very much. When we come back, we'll take you to Florida with police wrangling a rogue boat. We'll tell you what it took for them to stop it. Plus, why menopause is having a moment. As Elon Musk gets ready to scale back his role at the White House, he's denying a report that one of his companies is trying to scale him back, too. Both Musk and Tesla say it is, in their words, absolutely, even deliberately false that Tesla's company board has started looking for somebody to succeed Musk as CEO, as the Wall Street Journal reported. The opposite, actually, Musk says. He says he's got to get back to running his companies, which, in his words, do need me. Doge, that Department of Government Efficiency, he says, is now more in a rhythm. So instead of 24/7, we're talking maybe a couple days a week, maybe every other week in Washington, something like that. Musk's reflecting on his time in Washington, waxing rather poetic about playing video games in the West Wing, invitations by President Trump to sleep over in the Lincoln bedroom, snagging ice cream from the kitchen. He's into the caramel Haagen-Dazs these days, for those inquiring minds who wanted to know. Julie Sirkin is live for us on Capitol Hill. It is an interesting shift, considering Musk has been a near constant presence at the White House for months now. Whether or not some of the cabinet members like it. It doesn't seem like he's going all that far away. In other words, he's not getting banned from White House grounds, but talk us through what he's saying as he departs and as he takes some shots at the Journal reporting that the Tesla board's starting to look for his successor.
Yeah, if anything, Musk is saying he'll now stick around with his Doge effort for the next 4 years. In other words, the entirety of the Trump presidency. Beforehand, he was supposed to depart. The Doge effort was supposed to kind of wind down by July 4th of next year. Now he's saying, though his presence will be less frequent, he will be around. Although he did acknowledge to our Garrett Haake and other reporters that he kind of detailed his plans about what his next phase looks like, that he didn't accomplish as much in Doge as he thought he would. Remember, they came in with this big plan to cut $2 trillion in spending from the federal government. He said he only ended up cutting about $160 billion, and that caused a ton of headaches and heartburn, not only for him personally, but also for his companies, as you mentioned. And now he's saying, of course, that he's winding down. He also made reference to a couple of months ago when he made some mistakes, perhaps cutting something too soon, getting outrage from people here on the Hill, including Republicans. And he said if the standard for terminating anyone is that you can never make a mistake out of millions of people, then you could not fire anyone, obviously. So backing himself up and the work he did on that too, Hallie.
There is one area. He's been cutting, and Doge has been cutting the federal workforce, trying to cut back on spending, et cetera. He is saying there's one area the U.S. should spend money on. It just so happens that it's an area where there are some overlapping conflicts of interest for him.
Exactly. That is electric Humvees. Remember, a while back, the State Department actually canceled plans. They scrapped them when it was revealed that Tesla could actually profit hundreds of millions of dollars in profit by trying to use these electric vehicles for military purposes. Two Army officials actually tell NBC News now that to prevent Doge from going in, to have more power to the generals and have internal charge on this matter, that they are proposing to eliminate Humvees and to cut other costs in the hope that it will allow generals, not Doge, to decide where and how to cut spending. Sources told NBC News that Musk was in that meeting and apparently agreed.
His decision to walk away also comes at an interesting point, because on the one side, his company, he feels the need to be back with his company. The company, reportedly felt the need to be looking for a successor, although Tesla denies that. On the other hand, his popularity has sunk pretty dramatically ever since, the last few months, ever since he became sort of prominently involved with President Trump here in the White House. What do folks on the Hill think about that?
Well, we didn't actually get anyone to say today what they think about his winding down role. But if I look back to my conversations in the past couple of days and weeks, certainly even Republicans here really wanted cabinet officials to have the power. They also want Congress to have the power. This is a role that Congress should be in charge of. Now, they haven't balanced a budget, if you will, in decades, but they wanted to take some of that power back. Mike Johnson, for example, eyeing that in this budget proposal to fund the president's agenda, saying that they will make cuts in different areas. But you're totally right about Elon Musk's popularity, and it's perhaps why he's taking a step back from his role. A survey that we did at Stay Tuned actually found that 41% of Americans have a favorable view of Musk, 59% of Americans unfavorable. You compare that to his Q1 earnings this year versus last year, it completely tanked. 71% in profits lost for the company. That's something Musk is certainly paying attention to, Hallie.
Julie Sirkin, good to see you. Thank you very much for that reporting. NBC News covers hundreds of other stories every day. And because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Midwest Bureau, the Chicago Health Department is now investigating that city's first 2 cases of measles. Officials say one of the cases was found in an adult who had traveled internationally through O'Hare Airport last month and who had already had at least 1 dose of the vaccine. We don't know the vaccine status of the other person who tested positive. Both of them are now isolating. Out of our Northeast Bureau, an update to a story we told you about yesterday. The coach of the boys' high school lacrosse team in upstate New York denying he knew anything about alleged hazing involving 11 students. Remember, those high schoolers turned themselves in yesterday for their alleged involvement in an incident prosecutors called hazing on steroids. The coach says he's heartbroken and is cooperating with the investigation. The rest of the lacrosse season there has been canceled for the team. Out of our Southern Bureau, take a look at this. An out-of-control boat in Florida. The driver had fallen overboard, and so police had to figure out how to get that boat under control. An officer kind of like almost lassoed it. He used a rope to get the boat under control. He then jumps on it. Boom. He's able to shut it down. Just really incredible there, considering how dangerous that can be. Fortunately, the boat captain, the driver who fell overboard, is expected to be okay. To tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight it's those new numbers from the Cleveland Clinic on menopause and new divisions among women about how or even whether to treat it. Our Yasmin Vasugian's talking with people on the front line of this debate, fighting for more menopause training and awareness.
Menopause and perimenopause isn't just trending online
perimenopause
or on the New York Times bestseller list. It's catching on in state houses as well.
As we go through this menopausal transition.
Just this year, an unprecedented 13 states introduced menopause-related legislation.
If this legislation passes, menopause treatments will be more affordable. That will be guaranteed.
Jennifer Weiss-Wolf is the executive director of the Burnbound Women's Leadership Center at NYU and co-author of the Citizen's Guide to Menopause Advocacy.
Right now, for a lot of women across the country, if they were to go see their doctor for menopause or perimenopausal care, it wouldn't be necessarily covered.
There's no guarantee. It is not uniform from insurance company to insurance company, nor among states.
And the bills go beyond mandatory coverage for treatment. They range from paid leave proposals and public health campaigns to requiring menopause training for healthcare providers.
I got sick and tired watching other doctors treating women like they're crazy when they were actually menopausal.
Dr. Erica Schwartz has been at the forefront of menopause treatment for decades. She and other experts say medical schools are not training providers on how to treat perimenopause or menopause.
OBGYNs are not women's health experts. They are experts in delivery, breasts, hysterectomies.
And because of that, many women have continued to suffer and been misdiagnosed, like Michael O'Brien.
I was in my mid to late 40s and started experiencing some symptoms. I was still having a very regular cycle, and even brought this up to my friend group, and they were like, oh, it's too early. You know, you're fine. You're fine.
When she was hospitalized for heart palpitations and high blood pressure, doctors treated her for that instead of the real underlying factor, perimenopause.
My experience with doctors at this point was so, so dismissive.
And Michael's story is not uncommon.
What symptoms could they experience?
Hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, irritability, urinary tract infections, bloating, weight gain, weight loss, depression, anxiety. So before you go to 20 specialists, think hormones and make sure that you've adjusted your lifestyle.
And these symptoms have far-reaching ripple effects. According to the Mayo Clinic, our economy is losing an estimated $1.8 billion annually because menopause symptoms are pushing people to miss work. So with this potential change in legislation, what could this mean for women and our future?
If you're feeling good, then you can contribute. And if you can contribute, our society will benefit.
Now, it's up to lawmakers to push policies through championing changes for women in every state.
Yasmin Vasugian is joining us now. Yas, you mentioned those state moves. Talk us through some of where those are headed.
Yeah, first off, Hallie, can you believe it, right? I mean, that states don't have kind of this uniform coverage of menopause. I mean, it's incredible to think about half the population of this country, really more than half, being women. That being said, the state that we're watching, right, we said 13 states. California right now is the state to watch. You got 2 assembly bills that have already gotten pushed through their first committee hearings, which is essentially the first hurdle. One of those bills, essentially the state having to report the gaps in kind of education when it comes to menopause care amongst healthcare workers. The other one, the really important one, is a big one, right, which is coverage of menopause care by insurance companies in the state of California, major for a lot of women living in California. The other is continuing education for healthcare workers, specifically doctors, mandated in the state of California as well. It is fascinating, as I've been researching this whole thing, Hal, that physicians, doctors for the most part, do not have formal menopause care training. And it's fascinating to think that so many women out there are suffering because of that, hence why it seems this legislation is so incredibly important right now, Hal.
It's just so interesting, Yasmin. You know, people think of menopause as something that doesn't happen for like a long time. I mean, it's, you know, it's the generation of like elder millennials, you know what I mean? Like younger like it's happening when you're in your 30s or 40s.
You start to feel symptoms of perimenopause, which is basically before menopause, possibly in your mid-30s, early 30s, right? You get pregnant and literally the next day you have a baby, and the next day you could be feeling perimenopausal symptoms. I mean, it starts as early as your mid-30s, hence why it needs to be addressed.
Yasmin Vasugian, thank you very much for that reporting. It's
Thanks,
good
Hallie.
to see you, Yas. Appreciate it. Coming up, for horse racing fans or hat fans or mint julep fans, it is your time. It is also your time if you're a Steve Kornacki fan, because he's got your Derby Day preps coming up live from Churchill Downs in just a sec. It calls itself the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. The Kentucky Derby this weekend, and the big race at Churchill Downs means 2 big things: big hats and small hats and lots of hats, really, and big bets, big money bets. Look at this, more than $210 million wagered on the race last year, up more than $20 million from the year before. Steve Kornacki is joining us now from the Derby grounds with a mint julep and a hat. Oh, you have neither. And now I'm super bummed out about that. But what's so interesting here, we talk about this huge, you and I have talked a lot about sports betting, how it's exploded. The Kentucky Derby presents some interesting and unique challenges with that, right?
Well, it is. Of all the horse races around the country every year, thousands of races, there's none that's going to be as crowded as this track on Saturday. They've got 20 horses who are going to be running. You know, normally horses run against maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in a big case, other horses. So this is the biggest race, literally, that they run all year. They're coming in from all sorts of different tracks, all sorts of different conditions, and everybody gets in it. That's the fun of it, as you say, Hallie. You know, most exciting 2 minutes in sports. People got their own theories on how to make sense of these fields. Some people use complicated algorithms. Others like great horses. So it's a fun handicapping challenge.
How do you do it?
Well, I tell you, there was some big news, Hallie, literally in the last 5 minutes. You've heard of the trainer, Bob Baffert. He's one of the, he tied for the all-time winningest trainer in this race. He's been suspended for the last 3 years from Churchill Downs, from this race. He's making his return this year. And you see that horse on your screen there, Rodriguez. Just 5 minutes ago, it was announced that Rodriguez is going to scratch from this race. He is not going to run in the Kentucky Derby after all. And that means that's a big development, because it means another horse, his name is Baeza, B-A-E-Z-A. He is now going to enter this race. He was on the outside looking in, but with this scratch, he gets in. Baeza is a highly touted horse. A lot of folks think he has a good chance. And I'll tell you, I just literally, before I came on with you, Hallie, Baffert walked right past me where I'm standing. I'm just off of the paddock here at Churchill Downs. I asked him, I said, I just heard it. You know, he said he was clearly disappointed. You know, he still has one other in the race, Citizen Bowl, but he already seems to be talking about the next race in the Triple Crown, the Preakness. He said, look, you know, Rodriguez just wasn't ready for this one, and he's already starting to talk about the Preakness, the next race for him.
Kornacki, that's a hot scoop. Do you even have a producer? Is it just you? You're just scooping stuff at the Derby, selfie cameraing. You're incredible.
Let's give a shout out to our research producer, John Furlong. He texted the news, and I saw it as I'm standing here. And then I look up, and there's Bob Baffert. So maybe we got the first quote from him.
Dude, I love it. We're going to tell our friends over at NBC Sports so they can get it up on the blog. Steve Kornacki, John, the producer, thank you. Steve, selfieing in from Churchill Downs. We love you, pal. Thanks for doing it. We appreciate you so much.
Thanks,
Have fun at the Derby this weekend. Look for Steve. Look for more of our coverage, of course, Saturday, 2:30 Eastern on NBC or on Peacock. Still a lot more to come here on the show. Did all the Hollywood star power pay off for Broadway, even with those ticket prices spiking? We're taking a look. Some new controversy tonight over Broadway's biggest night, the Tony Awards, because the list of nominees is out, and it is dominated not just by Broadway stars, but Hollywood stars, people you may associate more closely with like a big-time movie or TV show. Look at George Clooney, Nicole Scherzinger, Sarah Snook, Mia Farrow, etc. Some of the celebrities may be looking or hoping for an awards sweep to add the T to the EGOT, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. Now, the Broadway shows don't seem to mind the influx of these Hollywood stars. They need the money, with revenue down $40 million last year from the year before. But look at what that's done to ticket prices. They are way up. But here's the thing. People are buying. Look at Othello, starring Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal. Some tickets are more expensive than a flight to London. But the show is a sellout. It's making nearly $3 million in previews. It's now the highest grossing Broadway play that's currently out. Mai Eaglin is joining us now. And Mai, there's this conflict here, right, between that some critics would suggest between these sort of huge names that are coming in, but some would argue making some of these Broadway shows unaffordable for like the average, Broadway watcher, if you will. That said, clearly people are paying for them, right?
100%, Hallie. And I have to say, there's been so much excitement around this day, the release of these Tony nominations, not just online, but here on Broadway. We've been seeing cast members and crews hugging, people changing their signage already. Here at the Buena Vista Social Club, you can see 10 Tony nominations, including for Best Musical. But so much of the chatter has been around those A-list celebrities, as you mentioned, Denzel Washington, Jake Gyllenhaal, Sarah Snook, who folks might remember from Succession. On the one hand, folks are saying this is drawing in a new type of audience member to really help support this art form and community. On the other, folks are saying it's raising ticket prices and maybe influencing the genre and art form in a way that they might not be in agreement with. So definitely some pros and cons here. But at the end of the day, with some of these huge stars are huge profits like Othello. Hallie?
And the actors get something out of it too, obviously, right? It's a resume builder in many ways for them.
100%. And this is really the best classroom, a lot of actors have said, to refine their skills. You get one chance on Broadway, and to get that EGOT title, you'll have to come here and work night after night. There are no second takes. I actually spoke to the host of On Stage on New York One, Frank DeLilla, about these A-list celebrities on Broadway. Here's what he had to say as an expert in this space.
What are your predictions for the future of Broadway in terms of these A-list celebrities?
I think we're going to continue to see them coming. Everyone wants to be an EGOT nowadays. And in order to be an EGOT, you got to do Broadway. You got to win that Tony Award. So I think we will continue to see stars flocking to Broadway.
So, Hallie, a lot of excitement.
That is for sure. Mai Eaglin live for us there in Midtown. Maya, thank you very much. Quick point of personal privilege before we go. Take a look at our control room, because tonight is our last show for one of the most beloved members of our senior team, Catherine Casey. Oh, my God, she's so embarrassed. She is on to, we will miss her very much, on to more other exciting things, I should say, coming with me over to weekends. Where she will be joining us on Weekend Nightly News. We love you. We will miss you. She was like a real OG here at NBC News Now right from the launch. So see you, friend. We're excited for you and for your new adventures. I will see you, speaking of Sunday, on Sunday Nightly News, and then right back here Monday on NBC News Now. Also Sunday, by the way, Kristen Welker sits down with President Trump for a big interview from Meet the Press. Big Sunday. We'll see you then. Be sure to tune in. Thanks for watching. As always, more coverage picks up right now. Tonight, the first big staffing shakeup of the president's second term, with the embattled national security advisor at the center of the Signalgate scandal now getting reassigned. What it means for the president's inner circle and what happens from here. Then fear and concern on the Harvard campus tonight after the school handed over info about thousands of its international students to the Trump administration. Why the school is acquiescing now after weeks of resisting the White House's demands. Plus, police launching a manhunt in South Carolina over a possible car ramming attack at a preschool. What we know about the person officials have just named as their suspect. Then the man who fell 20 feet from his seat at a Pirates game in critical condition tonight. What else we're hearing from shocked players and fans who watched it happen. And later, new details from superstar Sheryl Crow about an armed break-in at her Nashville property. What she says selling her Tesla had to do with it. Later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and tonight, President Trump not answering questions on his way to Alabama after the first big staffing shakeup of his second term. That's after the president is naming Mike Waltz to be the country's ambassador to the United Nations. That means Waltz is going to be leaving his role as national security advisor. In his place for now, Marco Rubio. And if you're like, wait, doesn't he already have a job? He does. He's the Secretary of State. He's now going to be interim national security advisor. That's two big jobs at one time. Something not a lot of people saw coming. Apparently, not even the State Department.
He says that in the interim, Secretary of State Marco Rubio will serve as national security advisor while continuing his strong leadership at the State Department. Do you know how long he's going to be serving in both roles?
It is clear that I just heard this from you.
So still some questions there. Waltz, for his part, says he's deeply honored to continue his service to President Trump and the nation. Our team didn't see Waltz earlier today at an event with the president this morning, but cameras did catch him leaving the West Wing. There he is at one point. And cameras also captured him just a day and a half ago. Here he is at a cabinet meeting to talk national security. But wait a second, look from the other angle. What's he doing? He's on his phone. More specifically, he's on Signal. There he is. And look, if you tilt your head, you can see it looks like Marco Rubio, maybe Steve Witkoff. You see J.D. Vance at the bottom there, what looks like Tulsi Gabbard. Now, the White House says, you know, NBD, they're saying Signal is an approved app downloaded on government phones. You see the White House statement there. But this matters because Signal is kind of why we're here in the first place. Remember, it was Mike Waltz who took full responsibility, in his words, for so-called Signal Gate, that group chat where a journalist from The Atlantic was accidentally added to this discussion about sensitive military strikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen. That raised a ton of questions about whether classified information was shared. Administration officials say it was not. Now, publicly, the president has repeatedly stood by Waltz. Privately, according to two Republican sources our team talked with last month, the president has vented about this whole thing leaking out. So now a lot of questions about what happens from here. Is this the end of the Signal Gate fallout? Could we see another firing of somebody who was involved in that, maybe the defense secretary, or at least reassignment, if you will? Who does the president pick for the permanent role of national security advisor? And until then, does Marco Rubio end up handling this job in an acting capacity? And does he do it for a while? We saw that a lot in the president's first term, these sort of longer-term actings, as they're called. Gabe Gutierrez is in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where President Trump is on his way for later tonight. Let's talk through this sort of Waltz dynamic here. There was some reporting swirling, some speculation. Maybe the president was going to fire Mike Waltz. Then it turned out it was kind of a reassignment, although he'll need Senate confirmation to serve as ambassador to the UN. Either way, it seems clear that this was triggered by the Signal discussion, the whole Signalgate issue a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, look, Hallie, President Trump does not like being seen as bowing to pressure from either Democrats or his other critics. So it makes sense that he waited quite a while before dismissing Mike Waltz as national security advisor. It also has the added benefit of disrupting a news cycle here that he had been dealing with for the last several days about the economy, about how his tariff policies had caused markets to plummet, and there were concerns among the American people. This is a news cycle. This is a news story that may not affect Americans' day-to-day lives. It's sort of inside baseball. Still, it gets a lot of media attention, and it largely distracts from the tariff news cycle as well. But this is something, as you said, that we've been hearing from sources familiar with the situation, that President Trump had been venting privately about Mike Waltz for a variety of reasons ever since Signalgate broke out. And it looks like he finally took action on that today, Hallie.
Gabe, The other piece of this here, too, is you talked about the pressure from Democrats. One in particular, I want to play for you to the House's top Democrat here before all this happened, before we knew that Mike Waltz was moving to this new role.
Pete Hegseth is the most unqualified Secretary of Defense ever. He's got to go. And if he doesn't have the dignity to resign, Trump should fire him. Now, the National Security Advisor is out. He's the first person to leave. He will certainly not be the last.
It feels like two things are true here, Gabe, and I know it's loud there, but number one, Donald Trump has not made it part of his business to take advice from Hakeem Jeffries, right? Like A. But number two, B, the president has also repeatedly and publicly said he stands by his defense secretary, right?
Yeah, that's right. And right now we have no indication that Pete Hegseth's job is on the line. Look, the Hegseth situation different from Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz was seen as not being aligned with the MAGA wing of the party. There were people within the administration that just didn't get along with him. His views, for example, on foreign policy, he was once an aide to Dick Cheney. He had differing views on Ukraine than other people within the administration. Meanwhile, Pete Hegseth has been coming out and defending himself strongly against his critics, what he views critics in the media, critics in the Democratic Party. And so for now, President Trump is sticking by Hegseth, although, Hallie, anything can change on a dime in the Trump administration.
You know it, Gabe. Give us a quick preview of what's to come for tonight for the president, where you are.
Well, as you can tell, it's very loud right here. The president coming to the University of Alabama, Ruby Red, Alabama, of course, where he enjoys strong support. He's delivering the commencement address here at the University of Alabama. He did not take questions as he left the White House a short time ago, and we don't expect him to perhaps take questions here as he arrives at the University of Alabama. However, he has been selling his economic policies, his tariff policies, in his last several speeches, especially his 100-day rally in Michigan. So we expect to hear more of that for him today. This does have a bit of a rally atmosphere. If you can, seats are starting to fill in here. It's just a few hours until the president takes the stage. But certainly this is a state that President Trump loves to visit, and we expect him to be, touting his economic accomplishments here when he arrives here later this afternoon, this evening.
Of course, it was just about a decade ago that he held his first big rally of his first presidential campaign alongside then-Senator Jeff Sessions. Boy, how much has changed and how little in some ways. Gabe Gutierrez, thank you very much for that, live for us from Tuscaloosa. Let's talk money here, because in just the last hour, some very interesting developments here. Apple's CEO is coming out saying he thinks Apple's going to take a nearly $1 billion hit because of the president's tariffs. Now, remember, Tim Cook here lobbied the president hard and won carve-outs for those heavy China tariffs, like on smartphones. Now, Cook says he is still engaged in tariff talks, but it's important to note those tariffs were not a factor in Apple's first few months of the year, right? The first quarter, Apple came out and said they feel like they did well. It was a good earnings report. As we talk about these big, sort of very important tech and everything companies, not just Apple, look at Amazon. They've also got earnings out, but they say it's hard to tell what tariffs are going to mean for them or where things are going to settle. Uncertainty here, that's a real theme. As all that's going down, you've got the Chamber of Commerce saying, hey, it's not just the big companies, it's the small ones that should be most concerned. These small businesses, which is why the Chamber is asking the Trump administration for tariff exclusions. You see it here in this letter sent to the president's top economic advisors. I want to bring in Brian Chung joining us now. So everybody had been watching this Apple earnings report. This is not CNBC, right? But we're talking about it here on this channel because it is big news as it relates to sort of an economic indicator here. Because Tim Cook is basically saying, if, right, caveat, if no new tariffs are added, they're looking at this nearly $1 billion loss, either way, or at least hit. Walk us through what this means, sort of on the macro level for these big companies that customers buy a lot of stuff from.
Yeah, well, look, at the macro level, the tariffs are still looming over every industry, but Apple is trying to shrug it off, in part first because smartphones and electronics have gotten this carve-out, at least for right now, from the tariffs as it undergoes this Section 232 review from the Commerce Department. But you still have Apple saying that there could be a $900 million hit from the tariffs in the next quarter. Again, just in one quarter coming up in the March to June period if the tariffs remain in place. And that's also assuming that there won't be any add-on tariffs from where we are right now. And we also heard Tim Cook on the call telling analysts, hey, everybody, don't freak out too much about these tariffs. Why? Because not that much of our supply chain is in China. Yes, it is indeed true that a number of products do come from China, but they were pointing to the fact that over half of their iPhone sales in the United States come from units that originate in India, not China. And they said things like the Mac, iPad, AirPods, Watch, almost all of those are made in Vietnam. So that 145% Chinese tariff that is looming over the potential aspects of this industry might not apply. But again, the question is, how long can they make those assumptions? We don't know the tariff policies an hour from now, a day from now, a week from now. That could be weighing on Apple, and that's the reason why in after hours, perhaps, we are seeing a selling of Apple stock over 3%.
But then Amazon's out here saying, well, they haven't seen the price of retail items of things going up yet, even though some costs are already rising, even if Amazon's not seeing it.
Yeah, well, Amazon interestingly said that, yeah, they haven't seen those price increases. But interestingly, the CEO, Andy Jassy, did say, quote, to some extent, we've seen some heightened buying in certain categories that may indicate stocking up in advance of any potential tariff impact. We do have to remember that when we talk about the tariffs, we're talking about, something that necessarily really hasn't taken effect until perhaps parts of March, depending on what type of tariffs you're talking about. There was a 10% tariff on China that began in February that was ratcheted up to 20% in March. These are earnings reports that cover basically the first 3 months of this year. So it's not really the full impact of these tariffs. But again, the next quarter, that's going to be the big one. The soft guidance from these companies is having investors certainly worried about what the next few months are going to look like, Hallie.
Brian Chung, we're glad to have you on another very slow and uneventful day for you. Brian, thank you very much. Okay. Speaking of slow and uneventful, look what's happening at Newark here. More than 4-hour delays for flights at that airport outside New York. And this slowdown is actually intentional. The FAA is doing it on purpose because there's not enough air traffic controllers to handle all these planes. You see it here. Incoming flights, 5 hours delayed. Outgoing, roughly 30 minutes. And the FAA is slowing things down because of a major shortage of staff at the airport's control towers and around them. This has been happening at Newark all week, and it's not clear when things are going to get back up to speed. Let's get to NBC's Tom Costello for more on this. Boy, Tom, there are a lot of threads to pull here, in particular this ripple effect, because what happens at Newark doesn't stay at Newark. You're talking about potentially a domino that could affect other airports in the region.
Yeah, let me... this is really kind of a complicated situation here. Some inbound flights are delayed by 12 hours. Jeez. Some outbound flights right now are delayed by 5 hours. This is a real problem at Newark Airspace. And let me explain what's going on here. The FAA in the last year has moved some of the controllers who handle Newark airspace, okay, not the people on the tower who handle the runways, but airspace. They moved those controllers down to Philadelphia. It was all about trying to encourage more people to be in the Philadelphia TRACON, if you will, that center that handles airspace above 10,000 feet. And it was also about, trying to essentially make sure that they've got enough people in one place, and therefore they're siphoning off extra people. That was the rationale. It hasn't worked that well, according to the controllers we talked to. And the problem is they've had dramatic equipment failures this week. Listen to this. Radars at the Newark Airspace Control Center went down. Radar went down Monday night. Radios went down last night. And according to one of the veterans I talked to, this is a regular ongoing problem, and it has been for a while. And that is why we've seen these dramatic delays and cancellations today affecting the Newark airspace, essentially, and in and out of Newark. So the concern is this could portend a rough travel season for anybody going in and out of Newark. And keep in mind, Newark is a critical hub for United Airlines. So that's where we stand right now, with hundreds of flights delayed or canceled today. And the delays and the cancellations are really pretty dramatic.
Can you be crystal clear there, Tom? Should people feel less safe flying into Newark? In other words, is this a safety thing or is this a convenience thing?
Unsolicited, the controller I talked to today said he doesn't think that Newark airspace is safe. Now, I was surprised by that.
That's a little intense.
And they're not prone to hyperbole. I will tell you that immediately the FAA and the Air Traffic Control Union say it's very safe.
Okay.
Don't worry. They're trying to make sure that things are spaced properly. They're trying to make sure that they got enough staffing. But this is clearly an ongoing problem here. And we are, as you and I have discussed, the country is short some 3,000 controllers. Right. And today, the DOT secretary announced steps to try to recruit more and retain controllers. And it's a very stressful job, right? So they're offering bonuses not only to get people to sign up to be a controller, but then stay on the job until the mandatory retirement age of 56. Yeah, that's right, 56. That's the mandatory retirement age because of the stress that this job entails. But nonetheless, we have a big problem in this country on the shortage of controllers, widely accepted. Everybody acknowledges that. Right. And it will take years to get it fixed.
But I do think that helps explain maybe the question people might have, which is, well, wait a second, why not just fly in more controllers from L.A. or Texas or wherever? It's not as though there's this big excess pool of people with this very specific expertise that can come in and help at Newark. Fair?
35% washout rate at the academy. 35%. Wow. Another 20% quit on the job. They simply cannot keep up, or barely are keeping up right now, with people just leaving, retiring and leaving, right? And it's stressful. This is not Monday through Friday 9 to 5. It's weekends, it's overnights, it's holidays, and it's life and death. It is a very stressful job.
Tom Costello, much more to watch there. Tom, please keep us posted as the evening goes on this one, too. Appreciate that. New concerns on campus tonight as we're learning Harvard handed over information about thousands of its international students to the Department of Homeland Security. This seems to be the first big move from Harvard to give in to the Trump administration's demands, at least some of them, ever since the start of this big fight between the two entities. But here's the thing. There's a lot we don't know about this, right? Like, we don't know what exactly was in specifically those records. The White House wanted stuff like disciplinary records, information about any potential illegal activities. They threatened to cut off Harvard's student exchange program if the university didn't go along with this. It's all part of a bigger, broader battle between higher education and the Trump administration, with the more than 1,000 international students at schools across the country reportedly having their student visas revoked in just the last couple weeks. Rahema Ellis is tracking this for us. And Rahema, as our viewers know, you spent a lot of time reporting on what's going down at Harvard here. Talk me through what you're hearing from students at the university now that the school has handed over at least some of this information, and why is Harvard doing this now?
Yeah, students learning about that Harvard has handed over some information. We, in fact, talked to some students, got in touch with them who were included in our story last night. That was all about international students who were feeling afraid to speak their mind on campus for fear of reprisals just from the campus as well as from the Trump administration. We've heard students say that they are feeling frustrated about what Harvard has done. It does not make them feel happy. But in the statement that Harvard sent out last night to its community, it said what it has done is comply with the law. To your point, they haven't told us exactly what they have done in terms of answering all those questions. They've complied with the law, and they've said to students, this should mean that there should be no change in our student visa status. So they're suggesting to students that you might be able to relax based on what the university has done at this point. Hallie?
So what happens next, Rahema?
It's a big question because the White House has been very diligent, if you will, about pushing forward with the changes that they want to see on university campuses. We did get a response, we should point out, from the White House to our questions about the fact that students were saying they were not feeling comfortable. And the White House says this: the actions of the Trump administration's anti-Semitism task force is motivated by one thing and one thing only, and that is tackling anti-Semitism. So it seems that they're pretty clear on the fact that they're going to keep pushing forward with this, no matter what the Harvard University does to this point. We'll have to wait and see about all of that. Hallie?
Rahema Ellis covering every angle on that story. Rahema, thank you very much. To some breaking news now, just in the last couple of minutes from South Carolina, where we're learning police have arrested a man in a suspected hit and run on Sullivan's Island, not far from Charleston. They say he drove a car into a group of people outside a preschool, hitting 2 kids, 1 adult. sending 2 of them to the hospital. I want to bring in NBC's Aaron Gilchrist on this fast-moving story here. Aaron, what's the latest?
Well, Hallie, in the last few minutes here, the breaking news is that an arrest has been made here. Police on Sullivan's Island, South Carolina, telling us that Justin Colin Adams was apprehended by officers on a boat, apparently, as they were searching that small town, as you noted, not far from Charleston, South Carolina. We'll back up and sort of explain what we know about what happened here today. It was a little bit before 1 o'clock when the call started coming in to local police that a man in a car had hit 3 people, as we understand, 2 children and an adult, outside a church preschool on Sullivan's Island. At that point, the witnesses say the man got out of that car and took off on foot. The alert that was put out to the community there was that he may have been armed with a knife, and so police considered him armed and dangerous. They told people who live in that town to make sure that they did not come outside, that they locked their doors, and if they saw anything suspicious, they should call police. At that point, there was an all-out effort, a manhunt really, by the local police, state police, FBI, several other agencies participating in trying to find Mr. Adams. As we understand it, there were helicopters put in the air, drones were being flown around the area, checkpoints had been set up as people were trying to leave the island throughout the afternoon, and then word coming in just the last few minutes here, really, Hallie, that the arrest was made, that people are safe now, that they don't need to be concerned. There will be still a police presence on the island as they start to pare down the operation, but the arrest has been made, as we understand it. One of the children was treated at the scene and released to his parents. The 2 people who went to the hospital, Hallie, the adult, as we understand it, is stable and is expected to be okay. The second child, we understand, was released from the hospital, Hallie.
Aaron Gilchrist, thank you very much for that update. Lots to follow in just the last couple of hours there. Appreciate it. Coming up here on the show, a former Empire actor reaching an agreement with the city of Chicago years after that alleged hoax attack. So what's next now for Jussie Smollett? Plus, forget snakes on a plane. How snake on a train, singular, caused a major blackout in Japan. Oof. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, an Army veteran convicted of killing his girlfriend and her 3 kids nearly 30 years ago is set to be executed tonight by lethal injection in Florida. Lawyers for Jeffrey Hutchinson have tried to delay it, pointing to mental health problems linked to his Army service. Arguments a judge rejected. If carried out, the execution will be the 4th in Florida this year. Number 2, take a look at this huge funnel cloud formation taking shape in Kempner, Texas, not too far from Austin. Oh, it's like swirling. You're seeing it start to come together. It's just the latest in this days-long string of intense weather hitting that area and parts of neighboring Oklahoma. They're both under flood warnings as they brace for another round of storms tonight. Number 3, former Empire actor Jussie Smollett reaching a settlement with the city of Chicago today. The city had sued the actor months after he claimed he was the victim of a racist and homophobic attack. The city accused him of staging a hoax hate crime against himself and wanted Smollett to pay back the $130,000 police spent on investigating it. Smollett filed a countersuit denying the attack was a hoax and that he filed a false police report. Remember, Smollett was eventually convicted, but that conviction was overturned late last year. No details on this new settlement were disclosed. Smollett's attorneys and the city have not responded to our requests for comment. Number 4, Luigi Mangione set to be the focus of a new musical debuting in California next month. 5 shows in San Francisco, reportedly sold out already, the whole run. Mangione just pleaded guilty to a federal murder, just pleaded not guilty to a federal murder charge last week in the killing of the United Healthcare CEO. Number 5, some wild video now out of Australia showing 3 men rescuing a great white shark from shallow water. So they say they use like rakes, kind of like a tool, kind of like a rake, to push the shark off the sandbar. After about an hour, they managed to get it back into deeper water. Pretty wow. Also tonight, country superstar Sheryl Crow sharing new details tonight about what happened when an armed man entered her property, telling Variety it was what she calls an alarming response from the far right after she sold her Tesla. Remember, she posted her video of her getting rid of her Tesla back in February. In the caption, she wrote, "My parents always said, you are who you hang out with." It was in many ways seen, of course, as a not-so-subtle reference to this man, Elon Musk, and his partnership in some ways, his controversial role at the White House inside the Trump administration as President Trump's close advisor, as he was on the campaign trail. Crow is not the only prominent progressive who has waved goodbye to her Tesla as a form of protest. Same deal for Jason Bateman, Bette Midler, Senator Mark Kelly, and more. George Solis is joining us now. And it's not that Sheryl Crow is shy about her political beliefs. She's written songs about, weave that into some of her songwriting here. She's talked about it. But she says the reaction this time was notably different, right?
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. I keep in mind when she wrote All I Want to Do and Love is a Good Thing, she was living out in L.A. She wasn't living in Tennessee. She said in that same article that, look, people didn't have as many guns back then. I certainly wasn't living in Tennessee. So this obviously felt a lot closer to home. In that article, she says, it doesn't feel safe when you're dealing with people who are so committed. And you're right. When you talk about that one song, Love is a Good Thing, the lyrics there really point out some of her views that she hasn't been shy about expressing. I'll sing it for you since we can't actually play it. She says very famously, watch out, sister, watch out, brother, watch out, children, while they kill each other with a gun they bought at Walmart discount stores. I apologize, I am not a singer, so I'll stick to my day job. But you get the point there. She was obviously very outspoken. She's been an advocate for climate change. She supports the Natural Resources Defense Council, the NRDC. But again, very shocking to hear that this actually happened to her at her property. And she says, she still sticks by her decision to get rid of her Tesla, as you heard, because she's obviously trying to send that message that she doesn't feel like she can support this while things are kind of the way that they have been going, Hallie.
And as you know, George, these sort of the selling of the Tesla, the offloading of the Tesla became and has become kind of a thing ever since President Trump was inaugurated. And it became clear that Elon Musk would have that elevated role as he did in those first few months here. And then there are some who look at it and go, well, of course, Hollywood, people in Hollywood might lean more liberal, these sort of celebrities, many of them known for having that more sort of democratic bent.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously not everyone can go out and just get rid of their Teslas after buying them. So what we have seen, it's been all over social media, is people are buying stickers, bumper stickers, anything to put onto their Teslas saying, hey, look, I have the car, and even though this doesn't really support my viewpoint, I can at least keep my car and express how dissatisfied I am with things that Elon Musk has been doing as part of Doge or anything else that they don't seem to care for. But it is part of a movement, and obviously we have seen more and more fallout from people who are rethinking even purchasing or getting a Tesla vehicle. But again, for Sheryl Crow in this particular incident, again, to hear that this actually hit so close to home for her, very pointed in that article she in that interview she gave to Variety, Hallie.
That's right. Those new revelations there. George Solis, thank you very much. When we come back, protesters clashing with police in Paris today. What unions there are now calling for. Plus, how Elon Musk may be scaling back his role at the White House, but not so for Tesla. That's next. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Brazil, the world's oldest person has died at the age of 116, just a few weeks before her 117th birthday. Ina Canabaro Lucas was a nun and teacher, and according to her religious congregation, died of natural causes. It's a group, LongeviQuest, a group that tracks super centenarians, says she attributed her long life to her faith. The current, now world's oldest person, is a 115-year-old woman in England. Out of France, May Day protests in Paris, one of many demonstrations around the world, taking a violent turn. People, you see it here, clashing with police, some dragged away, streets filling up with tear gas. Some unions there called workers to join in, to resist the influence of far-right parties, they said, and to support international peace. And out of Japan, a spokesperson for a train line operator says this 3-foot-long snake brought the country's busiest bullet train line to a standstill. The snake apparently got tangled up in a power line and triggered a blackout on the tracks between Tokyo and Osaka for 90 minutes. Some 80 trains were affected, meaning tens of thousands of people were stuck. And this is a big deal there. In Japan, the average delay last year was only about 1.5 minutes. So an hour 30, that is quite a bit for a small snake. Also tonight, as Elon Musk gets ready to scale back his role at the White House, he's denying a report that one of his companies is trying to scale him back, too. Both Musk and Tesla say it's absolutely, quoting there, even deliberately false that Tesla's board had started looking for somebody to succeed him as CEO, as reported by the Wall Street Journal. Musk says the opposite, actually, that he's got to get back to running his companies, which, in his words, do need me. DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, he says, is now more in a rhythm. So instead of 24/7 there, he can do like maybe, every other week, a couple days, whatever, in Washington. Musk is reflecting on his time working with DOGE, working at the White House, waxing poetic about playing video games in the West Wings, invites by President Trump to sleep over in the Lincoln bedroom, snagging ice cream from the kitchen there. Apparently, he's into the caramel Haagen-Dazs these days. Our Julie Sirkin is joining us now. It is an interesting shift considering Musk has been a near constant presence at the White House for months now. Whether or not some of the cabinet members like it, it doesn't seem like he's going all that far away. In other words, he's not getting banned from White House grounds. But talk us through what he's saying as he departs and as he takes some shots at the Journal reporting that the Tesla board's starting to look for his successor.
Yeah, if anything, Musk is saying he'll now stick around with his DOGE effort for the next 4 years. In other words, the entirety of the Trump presidency. Beforehand, he was supposed to depart. The DOGE effort was supposed to kind of wind down by July 4th of next year. Now he's saying, though his presence will be less frequent, he will be around. Although he did acknowledge to our Garrett Haake and other reporters that he kind of detailed his plans about what his next phase looks like, that he didn't accomplish as much in DOGE as he thought he would. Remember, they came in with this big plan to cut $2 trillion in spending from the federal government. He said he only ended up cutting about $160 billion, and that caused a ton of headaches and heartburn, not only for him personally, but also for his companies, as you mentioned. And now he's saying, of course, that he's winding down. He also made reference to a couple of months ago when he made some mistakes, perhaps cutting something too soon, getting outrage from people here on the Hill, including Republicans. And he said if the standard for terminating anyone is that you can never make a mistake out of millions of people, then you could not fire anyone, obviously. So backing himself up and the work he did on that too, Hallie.
There is one area he's been cutting, and DOGE has been cutting the federal workforce, trying to cut back on spending, et cetera. He is saying there's one area the U.S. should spend money on. It just so happens that it's an area where there are some overlapping conflicts of interest for him.
Exactly. That is electric Humvees. Remember, a while back, the State Department actually canceled plans. They scrapped them when it was revealed that Tesla could actually profit hundreds of millions of dollars in profit by trying to use these electric vehicles for military purposes. Two Army officials actually tell NBC News now that to prevent DOGE from going in, to have more power to the generals and have internal charge on this matter, that they are proposing to eliminate Humvees and to cut other costs in the hope that it will allow generals, not DOGE, to decide where and how to cut spending. Sources told NBC News that Musk was in that meeting and apparently agreed.
His decision to walk away also comes at an interesting point because on the one side, his company, he feels the need to be back with his company. The company, reportedly felt the need to be looking for a successor, although Tesla denies that. On the other hand, his popularity has sunk pretty dramatically ever since, the last few months, ever since he became sort of prominently involved with President Trump here in the White House. What do folks on the Hill think about that?
Well, we didn't actually get anyone to say today what they think about his winding down role. But if I look back to my conversations in the past couple of days and weeks, certainly even Republicans here really wanted cabinet officials to have the power. They also want Congress to have the power. This is a role that Congress should be in charge of. Now, they haven't balanced a budget, if you will, in decades, but they wanted to take some of that power back. Mike Johnson, for example, eyeing that in this budget proposal to fund the president's agenda, saying that they will make cuts in different areas. But you're totally right about Elon Musk's popularity, and it's perhaps why he's taking a step back from his role. A survey that we did at Stay Tuned actually found that 41% of Americans have a favorable view of Musk, 59% of Americans unfavorable. You compare that to his Q1 earnings this year versus last year, it completely tanked. 71% in profits lost for the company. That's something Musk is certainly paying attention to, Hallie.
Julie Sirkin, good to see you. Thank you very much for that reporting. To tonight's Original Now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight it's those new numbers from the Cleveland Clinic on menopause and new divisions among women about how or even whether to treat it. Our Yasmin Vasugian's talking with people on the front line of this debate, fighting for more menopause training and awareness.
Menopause and perimenopause isn't just trending online
during perimenopause
or on the New York Times bestseller list. It's catching on in state houses as well.
As we go through this menopausal transition.
Just this year, an unprecedented 13 states introduced menopause-related legislation.
If this legislation passes, menopause treatments will be more affordable. That will be guaranteed.
Jennifer Weiss-Wolf is the executive director of the Burnbound Women's Leadership Center at NYU and co-author of the Citizen's Guide to Menopause Advocacy.
Right now, for a lot of women across the country, if they were to go see their doctor for menopause or perimenopausal care, it wouldn't be necessarily covered.
There's no guarantee. It is not uniform from insurance company to insurance company, nor among states.
And the bills go beyond mandatory coverage for treatment. They range from paid leave proposals and public health campaigns to requiring menopause training for healthcare providers.
I got sick and tired watching other doctors treating women like they're crazy when they were actually menopausal.
Dr. Erica Schwartz has been at the forefront of menopause treatment for decades. She and other experts say medical schools are not training providers on how to treat perimenopause or menopause.
OBGYNs are not women's health experts. They are experts in delivery, breasts, hysterectomies.
And because of that, many women have continued to suffer and been misdiagnosed, like Michael O'Brien.
I was in my mid to late 40s and started experiencing some symptoms. I was still having a very regular cycle, and even brought this up to my friend group, and they were like, oh, it's too early. You know, you're fine, you're fine.
When she was hospitalized for heart palpitations and high blood pressure, doctors treated her for that instead of the real underlying factor, perimenopause.
My experience with doctors at this point was so, so dismissive.
And Michael's story is not uncommon.
What symptoms could they experience?
Hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, irritability, urinary tract infections, bloating, weight gain, weight loss, depression, anxiety. So before you go to 20 specialists, think hormones and make sure that you've adjusted your lifestyle.
And these symptoms have far-reaching ripple effects. According to the Mayo Clinic, our economy is losing an estimated $1.8 billion annually because menopause symptoms are pushing people to miss work. So with this potential change in legislation, what could this mean for women and our future?
If you're feeling good, then you can contribute. And if you can contribute, our society will benefit.
Now, it's up to lawmakers to push policies through championing changes for women in every state.
Yasmin Vasugian is joining us now. Yas, you mentioned those state moves. Talk us through some of where those are headed.
Yeah, first off, Hallie, can you believe it, right? I mean, that states don't have kind of this uniform coverage of menopause. I mean, it's incredible to think about half the population of this country, really more than half, being women. That being said, the state that we're watching, right, we said 13 states. California right now is the state to watch. You got 2 assembly bills that have already gotten pushed through their first committee hearings, which is essentially the first hurdle. One of those bills, essentially the state having to report the gaps in kind of education when it comes to menopause care amongst healthcare workers. The other one, the really important one, is a big one, right, which is coverage of menopause care by insurance companies in the state of California, major for a lot of women living in California. The other is continuing education for healthcare workers, specifically doctors, mandated in the state of California as well. It is fascinating, as I've been researching this whole thing, Hal, that physicians, doctors for the most part, do not have formal menopause care training. And it's fascinating to think that so many women out there are suffering because of that, hence why it seems this legislation is so incredibly important right now, Hal.
It's just so interesting, Yasmin. You know, people think of menopause as something that doesn't happen for like a long time. I mean, it's, it's the generation of like elder millennials, you know what I mean? Like younger like it's happening when you're in your 30s or 40s.
You start to feel symptoms of perimenopause, which is basically before menopause, possibly in your mid-30s, early 30s, right? You get pregnant and literally the next day you have a baby, and the next day you could be feeling perimenopausal symptoms. I mean, it starts as early as your mid-30s, hence why it needs to be addressed.
Yasmin Vasugian, thank you very much for that reporting. It's
Thanks,
good to
Hallie.
see you, Yas. Appreciate it. Coming up, for horse racing fans or hat fans or mint julep fans, it is your time. It is also your time if you're a Steve Kornacki fan, because he's got your Derby Day preps coming up live from Churchill Downs in just a sec. It calls itself the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. The Kentucky Derby this weekend, and the big race at Churchill Downs means 2 big things: big hats and small hats and Lots of hats, really, and big bets, big money bets. Look at this, more than $210 million wagered on the race last year, up more than $20 million from the year before. Steve Kornacki is joining us now from the Derby grounds with a mint julep and a hat. Oh, you have neither. And now I'm super bummed out about that. But what's so interesting here, we talk about this huge, you and I have talked a lot about sports betting, how it's exploded. The Kentucky Derby presents some interesting and unique challenges with that, right?
Well, it is. Of all the horse races run in the country every year, thousands of races, there's none that's going to be as crowded as this track on Saturday. They've got 20 horses who are going to be running. You know, normally horses run against maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in a big case, other horses. So this is the biggest race, literally, that they run all year. They're coming in from all sorts of different tracks, all sorts of different conditions, and everybody gets in it. That's the fun of it, as you say, Hallie. You know, most exciting 2 minutes in sports. People got their own theories on how to make sense of these fields. Some people use complicated algorithms. Others like gray horses. So it's a fun handicapping challenge.
How do you do it?
Well, I tell you, there was some big news, Hallie, literally in the last 5 minutes. You've heard of the trainer, Bob Baffert. He's one of the, he tied for the all-time winningest trainer in this race. He's been suspended for the last 3 years from Churchill Downs, from this race. He's making his return this year. And you see that horse on your screen there, Rodriguez. Just 5 minutes ago, it was announced that Rodriguez is going to scratch from this race. He is not going to run in the Kentucky Derby after all. And that means that's a big development because it means another horse, his name is Baeza, B-A-E-Z-A. He is now going to enter this race. He was on the outside looking in, but with this scratch, he gets in. Baeza is a highly touted horse. A lot of folks think he has a good chance. And I'll tell you, I just literally, before I came on with you, Hallie, Baffert walked right past me where I'm standing. I'm just off of the paddock here at Churchill Downs. I asked him, I said, I just heard it. You know, he said he was clearly disappointed. You know, he still has one other in the race, Citizen Bowl, but he already seems to be talking about the next race in the Triple Crown, the Preakness. He said, look, you know, Rodriguez just wasn't ready for this one, and he's already starting to talk about the Preakness, the next race for him.
Kornacki, that's a hot scoop. Do you even have a producer? Is it just you? You're just scooping stuff at the Derby, selfie cameraing. You're incredible.
Let's give a shout out to our research producer, John Furlong. He texted the news, and I saw it as I'm standing here. And then I look up, and there's Bob Baffert. So maybe we got the first quote from him.
Dude, I love it. We're going to tell our friends over at NBC Sports so they can get it up on the blog. Steve Kornacki, John, the producer, thank you. Steve, selfieing in from Churchill Downs. We love you, pal. Thanks for doing it. We appreciate you so much.
Thanks,
Have fun at the Derby this weekend. Look for Steve. Look for more of our coverage, of course, Saturday, 2:30 Eastern on NBC or on Peacock. Still a lot more to come here on the show. Did all the Hollywood star power pay off for Broadway, even with those ticket prices spiking? We're taking a look. Some new controversy tonight over Broadway's biggest night, the Tony Awards, because the list of nominees is out, and it is dominated not just by Broadway stars, but Hollywood stars, people you may associate more closely with like a big-time movie or TV show. Look at George Clooney, Nicole Scherzinger, Sarah Snook, Mia Farrow, etc. Some of the celebrities may be looking or hoping for an awards sweep to add the T to the EGOT, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. Now, the Broadway shows don't seem to mind the influx of these Hollywood stars. They need the money, with revenue down $40 million last year from the year before. But look at what that's done to ticket prices. They are way up. But here's the thing. People are buying. Look at Othello, starring Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal. Some tickets are more expensive than a flight to London. But the show is a sellout. It's making nearly $3 million in previews. It's now the highest-grossing Broadway play that's currently out. Maya Eaglin is joining us now. And, Maya, there's this conflict here, right, between that some critics would suggest between these sort of huge names that are coming in, but some would argue making some of these Broadway shows unaffordable for, like, the average, you know, Broadway watcher, if you will. That said, clearly people are paying for them, right?
100%, Hallie. And I have to say, there's been so much excitement around this day, the release of these Tony nominations, not just online, but here on Broadway. We've been seeing cast members and crews hugging, people changing their signage already here at the Buena Vista Social Club. You can see 10 Tony nominations, including for Best Musical. But so much of the chatter has been around those A-list celebrities, as you mentioned, Denzel Washington, Jake Gyllenhaal, Sarah Snook, who folks might remember from Succession. On the one hand, folks are saying this is drawing in a new type of audience member to really help support this art form and community. On the other, folks are saying it's raising ticket prices and maybe influencing the genre and art form in a way that they might not be in agreement with. So definitely some pros and cons here. But at the end of the day, with some of these huge stars are huge profits like Othello. Hallie?
And the actors get something out of it too, obviously, right? It's a resume builder in many ways for them.
100%. And this is really the best classroom, a lot of actors have said, to refine their skills. You get one chance on Broadway, and to get that EGOT title, you'll have to come here and work night after night. There are no second takes. I actually spoke to the host of On Stage on New York One, Frank DeLilla, about these A-list celebrities on Broadway. Here's what he had to say as an expert in this space. What are your predictions for the future of Broadway in terms of these A-list celebrities?
I think we're going to continue to see them coming. You know, everyone wants to be an EGOT nowadays. And in order to be an EGOT, you got to do Broadway. You got to win that Tony Award. So I think we will continue to see stars flocking to Broadway.
So, Hallie, a lot of excitement.
That is for sure. Maya Eglin live for us there in Midtown. Maya, thank you very much. Quick point of personal privilege before we go. Take a look at our control room, because tonight is our last show for one of the most beloved members of our senior team, Catherine Casey. Oh, my God, she's so embarrassed. She is on to, we will miss her very much, on to more other exciting things, I should say, coming with me over to weekends. Well, she will be joining us on Weekend Nightly News. We love you. We will miss you. She was like a real OG here at NBC News Now right from the launch. So see you, friend. We're excited for you and for your new adventures. I will see you, speaking of Sunday, on Sunday Nightly News, and then right back here Monday on NBC News Now. Also Sunday, by the way, Kristen Welker sits down with President Trump for a big interview for Meet the Press. Big Sunday. We'll see you then. Be sure to tune in. Thanks for watching. As always, more coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.